In light of current events that have been taking place recently, there's a story I wanted to share with you, a true story. And it has to do with a friend of mine who's a medical doctor. He's a psychiatrist. His name is Claude Curran. Actually, his mother was Calabrese, his father was Irish, and his name is Dr. Claude Curran. I got to know Dr. Claude Curran when I was at a Lady of Mount Carmel in Bristol, Rhode Island, in my first assignment. He had studied in Rome and met his wife there, who was a neurologist in medical school. They had married in Frosinone, her hometown, and then the couple moved to Bristol to raise their family, and they have 5 children. So one day, about 17 years ago, when I was at my first assignment in Bristol, I was talking to him about going to Rome. I told him I was going to be visiting Rome. And he said to me, "Father, listen, I really want you to do something when you're in Rome. I want you to get on a train, and I want you to go up to Loretto." And he said, "I'll pay for the train ticket, I'll pay for your expenses, but you've got to go to Loretto." Now, as he was saying this, I was thinking, okay, I know Our Lady of Loretto. It's a very important Christian site for we Catholics. It is actually the house of the Blessed Virgin Mary is in Loretto. The house where the Blessed Mary grew up, where she received the message of the angel Gabriel, and actually the incarnation of our Lord took place in this house in Loretto. Now, why is it in Loretto? It's in a northeastern Italian town and not in Nazareth. Well, the house, of course, was in Nazareth, where Our Lady was born and raised. But during the Muslim invasions, the Muslims were threatening to destroy the house of the Incarnation. So angels lifted up the house, and angels brought the house to where it is now in Loretto. Archaeologists have looked at this house, they have examined it, and they found that it is truly a first century house that would have been built in Nazareth, considering the materials that were there at the time in which it was constructed. Pollen on the house indicates that there are only flowers that would have been in bloom around that time in Nazareth. So it is authentically a Nazarene first century house. And as we Catholics, of course, believe, as I said, it was transported by angels to Loretto to protect it from Muslims. So I knew all that history about this beautiful house, but he said to me, "Father, I know the house is beautiful and I want you to see it, but there's another reason why I want you to go there. There's a guy who's there, his name is Tom Zimmer. I want you to meet Tom Zimmer." Now, Tom Zimmer is a man who he's not a priest, he's not a religious, he's not a brother, but he decided, he's an American, but he decided that this house is so powerful and so important to Christendom and so important for prayer that he was going to be a hermit there. He was going to leave everything behind in America, move to Loretto, and live near this house and stay in this basilica that's built around this house. He was going to stay near this house day and night and pray and attend all the masses every day that was said in this basilica that surrounds the house of the Blessed Virgin Mary. So, very fascinating man. I wanted to meet him. So, I do as Dr. Curran said. I got on a train. I went up to Loretto. Beautiful scenic ride on the way up. It's along the Adriatic side of Italy. I reach the basilica. I go in the basilica. It's a beautiful basilica. And the house is right there, built, the basilica is built right around the house. I went up to the house, I said a prayer, and then I looked for Tom. And I remember saying to Dr. Curran, "How am I going to find him? I'm just going to go to Loretto?" He said, "Believe me, walk around and you'll find him." Sure enough, there was an elderly man who was very frail, very thin, who was leaning up against the fence that surrounds the house. And I went up to him, and in English, I said to him, "Are you Thomas?" And he looked up at me and he said, "Yes, I am," in English. So I said to him, "I'm Dr. Claude Curran's friend. He's our mutual friend." And he looked and he said, "Yes, I know him very well. Have a seat." So I was in my collar, and he was sitting on the floor. So I sat on the floor and I sat next to him. So as I was sitting next to him, he was a really beautiful man, very, very holy. He was teaching me a lot of beautiful things. Actually, he is the creator of the book called the Pietà. It's the blue book, the blue prayer book that has the picture of the Pietà and on the cover, and it has all beautiful prayers in it. It's called the Pietà. I strongly recommend you get that book. It sold over 10 million copies, this book that he authored. So years later, only a few weeks ago, I'm talking to Dr. Curran, and he says to me, Father, remember that guy Tom Zimmer that I told you to go see in Italy many years ago? And I said, yes, of course. How could I forget what a holy man he was? And Dr. Curran said to me, listen to this about what happened between Tom and I in the 1980s. Dr. Curran said that in the 1980s, he was talking to Tom Zimmer. And Tom Zimmer said to him, Claude, there's a man right now who I believe in the future is going to lead America back to God. So Claudio said, who is this? Who is this guy? And Tom Zimmer said, the man who's going to, in the future, lead our country back to God is Donald J. Trump. And Dr. Curran said, you mean the New York Playboy? Like, this is the guy? And Tom Zimmer said, believe me, I have a premonition that this is the man who's going to do it in the future. So what Thomas did is, at that time, John Paul II opened the holy doors of the Vatican, of St. Peter's Basilica. And when he opened the holy doors for that year, it was for the whole year, when the doors are ready to close, the Vatican allows people to donate bricks that go inside the door, and you can put an inscription on the bricks of any intention you want. And those doors are closed and they're sealed, and they're not open until the next time the Vatican, the Pope, decides to open the doors for another holy year. So they're shut, sealed, and all of the intentions that are on those bricks are prayed during the holy sacrifice of the Mass at the Vatican, at St. Peter's. All the Masses that the Pope says, all the prayers that are prayed, are all for the intentions of the inscriptions that are on these bricks. Tom Zimmer, in the 1980s, donated a brick to be put in the holy door of the Vatican that said Donald J. Trump. And he did that because he wanted those masses in the Vatican to be said for him, because he knew that in the future this man was going to be a great leader of America and bring Americans back to God. And look at just yesterday at Donald Trump's rally, his wife prayed the Our Father in front of the whole crowd. It was just so moving and beautiful to hear a first lady pray the Our Father. This premonition, I firmly believe that Tom Zimmer, this very holy hermit of Loreto, promised would happen, has been fulfilled.